Good evening. This meeting of the East Ridge Planning Commission will now come to order for May the 6th, 2024. And Ms. Middleton, if we can get a roll call, please.
Chairperson Tuggle,
Here.
Vice Chairperson Howell,
Here.
Commission Member Cornelius,
Here.
Commission Member Williams,
Here.
Commission Member Witt,
Here.
City Attorney Litchford.
Here.
Thank you. And now, as we move on to the minutes of the previous meeting, which was March the 6th, 2024, I did have one thing. The third to the last paragraph is missing the word ordinance. It just ends mid-sentence. But I made a note. So if you guys want to make a motion just with that change.
Are you ready for the motion?
Sure.
I'll make a motion to make that change to enter what?
Ordinance on the, it says,
Ordinance.
no one came forward in favor of or in opposition to the amendments to the blank. So,
Second.
all right, we have a motion to approve with an amendment and a change. Can I get a roll call, please? I'm sorry, and a second. May I have a roll call, please?
Vice Chairperson Howell,
Yes.
Commission Member Cornelius,
Yes.
Commission Member Williams,
Yes.
Commission Member Witt,
Yes.
Chairperson Tuggle.
Yes. Okay, there is, ordinarily we move the communication and comments by the public, but considering we only have one agenda item, if there's anybody who would like to make any comments on tonight's agenda, now would be the time, either in favor or against. Feel free to approach the lectern. Not seeing anyone, the next item is there is no old business, so moving directly into new business. 6A on the agenda is to review and discuss ordinance number 481 of the Municipal Zoning Code as it relates to regulations concerning signs located in Title 14, Chapter 2. Mr. Howell.
Yes, good evening, members of the Planning Commission. So staff are seeking to add additional language to Title 14, Chapter 2, Article 6, Sections 108 through 110 of the East Ridge Municipal Code as it relates to on-premise and off-premise signs, billboards, and regulations. This is otherwise known as the sign ordinance, Ordinance 1028. The additional regulations staff are requesting are the following: accent storefront lighting, storefront display, and multi-tenant detached monument or directory signs within all commercial, office, and manufacturing districts. I'll start off with the accent storefront lighting. Currently, our sign ordinance, Ordinance 1028, has no language with regards to prohibiting light other than message centers at this time. Accent storefront lighting would be defined as the following: shall be lighting that outlines or is attached to a window, canopy, door opening, or any portion of a window with the intent to attract customers or the attention to a storefront. Lights that outline or are placed on windows, doors, or door openings either inside or outside of the business which are visible to the public are prohibited. The following lights would be prohibited under this accent storefront lighting: strobe lights, lights that mimic flashing emergency vehicle lights, neon lights or light strips, rope lights, string of lights, a string of bulbs with LED and or fluorescent lights, incandescent, halogen, or similar. The next item staff's recommending is the storefront display. Currently, signed ordinance 1028 exempts permitting process for all on-premise temporary interior window signs. The storefront would be displayed would be a total maximum window space occupied by signs shall not exceed 50% of each window. This shall apply to the surface area of each individual panel or transparent opening or glass to which the signs are attached. This will apply to each floor of a building where the business is located. If the glass window covering extends more than one floor, provisions shall apply to each floor. And lastly is the multi-tenant monument and directory signs. As you guys well know, that our monument signs for a single business are limited to 9 feet and 50 square feet per sign face. This would allow, dependent on the square footage of the multi-tenant building, based on these table sizes that I have listed, 0 to 15,000 would allow a maximum support structure of 80 square feet with a maximum height of sign of 11 feet. And so forth with 15,000 to 50,000 square foot area, it would allow a max sign area including support structure of 100 square feet, and the max heights of sign of 13 square feet. And along with the 50,000 to 100,000, the max sign area, including support structure, is 125 square feet, and the max height of the sign is 15 square feet. Currently, a sign ordinance allows for a maximum of 9 feet from multi-tenant directory signs and shall not exceed 125 square foot in support. Now, you think about that, at 9 foot for a multi-tenant, that's a very short sign with a very long base, an enormous base, if you wanted to utilize the whole 125 square foot, which in that case would take up valuable property. We do have, and I listed on here, several businesses within City of East Ridge, and their square footage of lots or the leasing area is, and you do have a mixture of these businesses all the way up to, like, the Mercantile is at 93,000 square feet. And, you know, this also would help a lot of these businesses that if there ever was an accident on any of these signs, you know, and right now, all these signs are legally non-conforming signs. They're basically grandfathered in. So if a multi-tenant sign, say like East Ridge Row, I think it is over here by Regions Bank, let's say that's a car backed in that sign, it exceeded 50% damage. Well, they can only go back with a 9-foot-high monument sign at 125 square feet maximum. This way, you could compare it to, like, what is the business size? Then you could base it off of this table chart here, and they actually could exceed that 9 foot based on the square footage of that area. So staff recommends these approvals with any input that this body might have or any changes you might want to apply to it.
All right, thank you, Mr. Howell. If there's any feedback or questions from the commission?
I do have a question. When you were talking about the light strips and the rope lights, what about these restaurants? Like, is it Ridgewood that Home Plate's there? And don't they have the lights out there where the outdoor area is? So how's that affect that?
That was one thing that I didn't place, or staff didn't look at placing into the sign ordinance. Now, if this body wants to take it as far as to where you're placing lights on top of a building, is that what we're referring to?
No,
Ms. Witt,
it's
or-
over the outdoor eating.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it's
I
like
think,
hanging lights that
Buddy's
are over the, that's hanging.
Yes, this would strictly apply to storefronts only. Now, if this body recommends to place some more language in here, which would in turn say, hey, you know what, no lighting on the building
Well,
whatsoever.
no, I like the lightings that they have.
You just asked if it was,
Yeah, is
be
this gonna
prohibited.
hinder it? Yeah,
It would not, based on this. This would
Okay.
apply to storefronts only.
okay.
And if I could add, a lot of these things, you know, your store front lighting, these are safety features as well, because you take some businesses that have this LED lighting, they are almost a light intrusion at night driving down the Ringo Road. Not only with the accent lighting, but the signage in a lot of these businesses are blocking areas where the police department can't see in these buildings. There's so much signage on here that you can't even see what's going on inside some of these buildings. So not only were we requesting this, but it's also for a safety feature as well on this.
I do have one item of concern under the lighting display. The way it's written currently about lights that are placed on windows would also prohibit a regular open sign. A non-flashing open sign would be prohibited by this ordinance, which I think is a step too far. So my suggestion would be to add, under the holiday lights exemption, also non-flashing open signs not exceeding the maximum window space regulations are exempt. So I understand the flashing ones can mimic emergency lights, but a non-flashing open sign like we've had since the 40s would be prohibited under this language.
Would an open sign be considered
Well, they're attached to
to
windows.
attract customers or a storefront?
I mean, I would say so, because they say they're open. That's to attract a customer.
Right.
And it's attached to a window. They're suction cup signs, and they're red and blue, but if we make them non-flashing, I don't see how there's an issue with an open sign.
That would also apply, Mr. Tuggle, if we're looking at it like that as a sign, then that would refer back to the amount of square footage per window pane, individual pane we're looking
Sure.
at too. So, I mean,
No, and I say not exceeding the maximum window space regulations. They would have
Okay.
to conform to that. I don't think we should make the entire front of the building an open sign.
Right.
But I do think if they have a normal, what are they, 1x2, I think, open sign that are sold in every hardware store in the country
okay.
with suction cups, that would be prohibited under this.
So just to confirm that, would an open sign in that manner as described, would that be prohibited based on this language?
It would.
Okay.
That was just the first example I thought of today, but when I was reading it, I think it's some things we're
Well,
not
it's a
intending
good
are getting
example.
scooped up.
If we want to put a limit to the
Yeah.
size of the, of
Yeah,
just
I mean-
a standard open sign flashing.
Yeah, there are many examples way too far. I mean, there's one on Gun Barrel Road in Chattanooga that is obviously mimicking emergency lights. It's annoying. You see it every time you think, is that a cop car? And then you realize it's a business. Like, there's certainly the annoyance, and then there's being draconian. You know, there has to be a happy medium.
What's staff's thoughts on small exemption for just an open, flashing open sign? We put requirements on the actual size.
And non-flashing, because a lot of them have multi-modes, and flashing kind of fits the red and blue because you can't really control what's LED and blah, 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 but non-flashing,
We could make those exempt in the,
like the holiday lights portion is kind of,
So you're saying that it cannot be OPEN, it's got to just say open and be on.
all the ones that are sequential also have a constant on.
Okay.
And I think it's too far to say it has either, it just has to be non-flashing, right?
Okay.
But all the ones that are sequential can also just be all the way on. But as somebody who has dark tinted windows in East Ridge, it is hard to know unless you have a lit open sign. You can't rely on one of those sliding things. You have to have a light because our windows are tinted because it's full sun all the time on Ringgold Road.
okay.
I don't actually think we have an open sign, but it would be, I mean, that's what our neighbors do, and I think it
Right.
makes sense.
So another question, if we're ready to move on off of that.
Sure.
What about the roof accent lights? Because I know several businesses have that. Some are actually a light string and some is actually like neon. Would that be also prohibited in this, or is this just accent front lighting?
That,
Or would it be,
yes, that would be accent front lighting only. So if this body would want to put additional language in there to eliminate any type of LED that would, outline the facade of a building per se, or standalone windows per se, because there are some businesses that do have that, yes.
I think the ones that you may be referring to are intended to be holiday lights. They've just been installed
Holiday lights,
permanently.
okay.
But there are some,
that, yeah, and I
They're
don't
fast
think it
food.
looks bad as long as it's not flashing, if it was steady. But
But
it
you
was
have-
just outlining the roof.
yeah, I mean, you have like Sonic, for example, that uses a lot of fluorescent lighting to mimic the drive-through line. They are accenting the entire structure, and Sonic's been here longer than I've lived here.
So I just want to pitch that for this body to think about, brainstorm thoughts on roof lighting.
Currently, if somebody backs into the Sonic, they can't rebuild it this way.
Correct.
I don't want to seem negative. I'm all for restrictions, and I do think there are prime examples for why we need this. I just think we need to have a little bit more thought about what are the businesses we like and making exemptions that make sense for the spirit of the law.
I guess what I don't want to do is rush into it and then maybe have to change it to
Yeah.
later.
I'm in favor of, well, never mind. I'm not making motions, but yeah, there are certainly things we could do and revisit some of those topics.
So is this something that we could table and look at and bring it back?
Absolutely.
City Attorney, have any opinions? You're not on, I don't think. There you go.
Is that got,
There you go.
I got no problem if we want to look at it and we got the roof thing we want to add, we got the window, the open sign. We'll find the language about sequential lettering and that. Because the big thing, a lot of this is really driven by the safety factor of what we're seeing now. And I have talked to to Gatlinburg City Attorney, and communicated with Maryville, not talked, but communicated, and they did take their time with it, but the premise of it was all for the safety measure of it. And so if we get the roof when we can figure that out, I think we can get this done pretty soon, I would think, and get this implemented. The question will be what we want to do about getting some of these implemented immediately for safety reasons, which really are your strobe lights, your flashing lights, your really bright lights that are just blinding or distracting from the road.
Actually, I think the suggested that it shall include the following, that list is great. The problem comes in the preceding sentence that has a very broad lights that outline or replace the windows, et cetera, et cetera. That's where the problem comes in. But the examples are all things that are either a safety issue or just a straight up annoyance for any resident. I mean, those are common sense. It's the preceding sentence that's the issue.
Yeah, we can fix that.
So if you were to suggest things that could be made into a motion that would navigate such things temporarily while we revise a more overarching plan, what would a amazing legal mind have to suggest?
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Mayor.
While you're thinking, if we remove the canopy from the above section after the describing of the type of lights, if you have adjacent storefront lights shall be defined as lighting that outlines or attached to a window, if you remove the canopy at this point, door opening, or any portion of a window with the intention to attract customers' attention to the storefront. It doesn't identify the roof line at this point. We could put language in about the open sign. Then would that give us a base to start with?
I think it would. I think that's one. It's concise, it's clear. It at least gets us to a good foundation now, and then to the extent we want to tweak it, we can tweak it. I'm okay with that, Mayor. I would be. If we want to have that, so take out canopy. With the intention to attract customers.
Works for me.
Yeah, I think that gets it.
And then we're adding the non-flashing open sign?
Yeah, I
Correct.
can read that if you'd like. I spent all of 30 seconds working on this sentence. So
Okay, let's hear it.
also, non-flashing open signs not exceeding the maximum window space regulations are exempt.
I may have a little heartburn on that one. I mean, if you've got a
Yeah,
large
dive in.
window, you're saying your open sign can be half the size of that open
Well,
window. I think it
I
should
would
be a
hope not.
standard. I'm sorry.
I don't know what the standards are. If somebody has any idea what size those things are.
I don't, but I can guarantee you, if that was placed in there, you'll have somebody will put
They'll
an
have
open
one
sign
made.
the size of that
Open
window,
sign?
because it will
Half the size of
happen.
that window.
Well, it could be no larger than, I mean, what's the biggest one
Really,
you could get?
2 by 3?
3?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we go. We're in agreement. All right, anybody, all in favor?
Non-flashing open sign 2x3?
Or, and not exceeding maximum window regulations, because if it's a tiny window, you don't want to stick to the whole 2 by 3, right? Either lesser of 2 by 3 or 50%.
I'm okay with that. I actually had written down something about a ratio, open sign ratio relative to the size of the window. And if
Yeah.
it, 2 to 3 or something, yeah, that's fine.
2 by
Have
3
you
it
come
should be.
across anything in your research of ratio open signs relative to the window display?
Other than merchandise display, that was about it, Attorney Lynchford, that was the only other thing. I didn't want, or staff didn't want to look at it and place so many restrictions on it that, now you can't put, 30% of the window can't be occupied by merchandise and things like that, because we do have, there again, businesses that have shirts hanging down from their storefront windows, things of that nature. So, I mean, at what point do we say, hey, enough is enough, or do we just continue to, I won't say stomp the rights, but, but it's all the safety factor of
It's a
this.
safety factor with those bright flashing lights.
Yes.
It is. The research I have found, in when I got this from Mr. Howell, is that what they call the noise pollution, the noise, light pollution, light distractions. And I actually read one article, what it had like the lumens at night with and without, what would it be, and how bright it actually really is, and the distractions that is triggered by these lights relative to what drivers are doing at night and driving. And pretty good article to read that. But all this was what Gatlinburg did to keep it safety, particularly with some of that tight, what is it, 321, whatever goes through Gatlinburg right there. And of course, we have a much bigger strip and much bigger properties with all the lighting, so it's significantly more lumens.
The changes that we make, those are gonna, there's gonna be an effort to bring some businesses into compliance and remove those strobe lights.
I had spoke with Attorney Litchford on this, whether we could give some of these businesses that do have, or let me start over, not necessarily to grandfather them in, but to maybe give them a notice, grace period, 60 to 90 days to say, you know, after this is up, these lights have to be removed from your storefront area.
That's what Gatlinburg did.
So this does not have to be reviewed by council because it's just part of the planning guidelines.
What's that?
Does this have to be voted on by council before it becomes?
It would be a recommendation from the commission, they go on to the council thereafter, yeah.
Yes, because, I mean, technically, we would be amending ordinance 1028, the sign ordinance, in respect to it, yeah.
Okay.
It's gonna be hard to make a motion now. I'd like to make a motion to approve the adjustment of the lighting display regulations with the exemption of the word canopy and to allow open signs, non-flashing open signs, not exceeding the 50% window space ratio or 2x3 in size. How did I do?
And did you want to put something in about the time period to come in compliance?
Yes, existing businesses would have 60 to 90 days.
I think 60 is a good day. That's what Gatlinburg did, and that would give them plenty of time to make it more.
60 days to come into compliance with the new ordinance.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Vice Chairperson Howell,
Yes.
Commission Member Cornelius,
Yes.
Commission Member Williams,
Yes.
Commission Member Witt,
Yes.
Chairperson Tuggle.
Yes. Okay, there being no further business, this will adjourn the meeting. You had like zero expression. I tried staring at you for any feedback, and the only time you made an expression is when they said 90 days, and then you smiled. I'm like, bro, you're killing me here.